Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Trent Talks. This is episode 20, and I am privileged and honored to have Jason Swenk with us today. Thanks for being here, Jason. Super excited to have you, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Trent. I'm excited to be on the show as well.
So this is really cool one because for me, I've built since 2008. I've slowly gone through the process and evolved, and Jason actually probably doesn't know this part. So I evolved from the web design SEO agency, then moved to primarily PPC, and now doing more of the full marketing, branding, building online images, that kind of thing. And so this is going to be a really enjoyable one for me as well, just because there's so many different, how do we say this? Pseudo experts in agencies. I don't want to call them fake experts. We'll be nice. We'll call them pseudo experts in agencies and people who've never really done it. And I know, like we just talked about, you sold your business, your agency in 2012, and you've been really running high-end masterminds and doing more of, again, you use the right phrase. Coaching isn't really the right word. It's more of a mentorship that you do inside of the mastermind. But yeah, man, I really appreciate you being here, and I'm super excited the value you bring to the table with this. I know this is right up your alley.
Awesome.
But so to tell us just real briefly, I know I read a little bit of your bio and your presser, how you started with Arthur Andersen. How did you go from just coming out of college? I'm going to be one. How did you decide to be a consultant? And two, how did you all of a sudden say, screw this, I got to do it on my own. I can't do this.
Yeah. So it starts back at kind of an early age. I always wanted to own a business, but I didn't know what it was. And then I remember watching a show called Bewitch, where her husband, she was a witch, and her husband was like a pitch man. And I always thought that was fascinating. So I always was intrigued by marketing. So I got an internship as a marketer, and all they had me doing was stuffing envelopes. And I was like, this sucks. Like, I hate marketing. Like, that's what I thought marketing was.
I was going to say, that was your intro to marketing?
Yeah. And so this
was the most welcoming.
Yeah. And this was like 96, 97, I think. And so I went to them. I was like, look, email's starting to be really big. Why don't we save cost and we reach more people and we have more deliverability doing email? And I wound up saving the company like $250,000. And she was like, you should go into management information systems, computers. I was like, okay. And like my dad was saying, like, dude, kids are coming out of school with signing bonuses. I was like, cool. Like, I literally made a decision on money. And so I got a computer degree, but I was horrible at programming because I outsourced everything in college. And so I worked for Arthur Andersen as a computer programmer, and I was horrible at it. I didn't know how to program.
That's funny.
And so I didn't last very long, but I was just lucky enough at the time. I knew how to design websites. And so I designed a website making fun of one of my friends that looked like Justin Timberlake. So I created a fake website called In Shit, and it got popular.
Oh my gosh.
Making fun of NSYNC.
That's funny.
And then people started asking me for $500 websites. So I kind of fell into it like everybody else, but I was an accidental agency owner, and just over time.
You kind of went the same route I did. You started the web design part. Interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Over time just kept building and building, and then working with LegalZoom and Hitachi and Lotus Cars as the agency of record.
Well, how do you transition though from like the aspect of managing, or building websites, right? So you transition from that into, hey, I know it's not you don't go straight from that to working for AT&T and Hitachi, but how do you transition into the brand building aspect of it? Like all of a sudden I'm going to start consulting and I know it starts stages, but going from like web design SEO, which nothing to knock it, but it's when it comes to the brand spectrum of the marketing scale, like it's not super technical from a branding. You get what I'm saying?
Yep. You mean there's not a silver bullet? If I don't buy that one course.
Exactly. There's no silver bullet. Like boom, this does it.
Yeah.
So like, how did you go through getting those skills and getting those clients that decide to trust you with a new skill?
Just doing it over and over again. Like I remember my first client asked me to send him an invoice. I didn't even know what an invoice was. So like there was so much I did not know. And like there was no Google back then, so I couldn't Google it. There was no YouTube. Like it was all just figure it out, because this was all really new. And I just started looking at how other people were doing it, and I would be like, all right, how can I model that but then make it different? And we just started, like I always tell everybody, everything big starts off small. So, stop comparing yourself to the big guys. And also too, as we started really, like we started in 99, and we didn't grow really until about 2002. But you think about what happened in 2001, 9/11. And so it just started a huge crash for a lot of different things, and the dot bomb. So a lot of these bigger companies were going out, and I didn't have much overhead. So I was nimble. I could go really fast. So I started just going after some bigger guys. I remember our first big client was water.com, Crystal Springs or Hinkley Springs. They have a number of different brands. And then we just used that brand to get another one, like Honey Baked Ham. And then we used that one to get Hitachi. And then we just started really getting a specialization. We started building, a content management system back in, 2000, like our own. We started building an email marketing system. Now, these were all installs. These weren't SaaS. So I wasn't as smart as you think I was. I should have done the other. And then we just couldn't maintain that software we were developing for our clients because our clients came first. So then we kind of fell into our niche. We started figuring out, Microsoft has amazing technology. Sitefinity has amazing content management systems. So we became the best partners in the world for them. And then we started, just building the agency and growing it over time. Gotcha.
Now, well, how do you go for, like you talk about the first one you got, water.com, right? With Crystal Springs and everything. So how do you, because the biggest thing that most agency owners deal with, and I started in 2008, and I think off and on, depending on what skill I was trying to position and where I was learning, over the last, almost 11 years, like you deal with the aspect of when it's something new, well, there's that imposter syndrome, especially early on, right? Like you can know all the knowledge and you can say, okay, I know how to implement this. So how do agency owners work through and deal with that imposter syndrome and say, this is because, you don't want to fake it till you make it. That there's that whole mentality, but it leads to a lot of people just signing contracts and having no ability to fulfill. So we don't want to necessarily like promote that, but at the same time, you have to have the confidence to start somewhere.
Yeah. Look, we're all imposters, right? Think about it, because even if it worked for us, it doesn't mean all the variables are the same for someone else. So a lot of times we're trying to make a strategic guess and it may work, but we don't know with that complete certainty that it's going to work. We're all imposters and we're always learning and adapting. But what you got to realize is you can only do the best today of everything that led up to today. And then tomorrow may be a little bit different. Like a lot of times I may flip-flop on certain things as I gain more knowledge. I'm always constantly learning. Like everybody's like, oh, you sold your agency in 2012. You don't know anything. I'm like, well, I've interviewed over 400 agency owners since and worked with thousands of agencies, and I've learned a lot of new stuff. And I always kept saying to myself, being like, if I could go back, this is what I would do. But I just do it on a bigger scale now. So we're always learning and adapting. And you just got to say, I'm going to do the best I can with all the information and what I have now, and I'll be as resourceful as I can. And just know that you are trying to help, even though sometimes in the very beginning, you may not help people. You actually may hurt their business. But, as long as you're trying, then that's fine. But like I always love the thing, like fake it before you make it. Like I hate those types of people, like show the Lambos. And I'm like, what is going on?
No, totally. But and there is, you're right. It's a different kind of, don't fake that you're this great, huge success, making millions and millions of dollars. I think that's the part that's the negative of the fake it till you make it. Yeah. There is a degree of, look, I have the knowledge and I have to exude success with my knowledge so that I can work on my implementation.
Yeah.
Obviously, well, not obviously, but a lot of agency owners like to some like to stay in the implementation phase. As there's a lot of agency owners that say we want to continue to implement for clients. We want to do hands-on work. Yeah. In your mind, what's the biggest determining factor that someone should be looking at whether you need to stay with the hands-on approach? Because I imagine in your agency university, which we're going to talk about later, which is your high-end mastermind, correct?
Oh, it's called the Digital Agency Elite. Yeah, so I don't do the university anymore. No one wants to go back to school, right?
Fair point. But so
yeah,
that's your mastermind.
Yeah, but
right?
To answer your question about like how do you really separate yourself, it matters on what you want right now, right? Like if you're comfortable at where you're at right now, okay, cool. Keep doing everything you're doing as is. But have the knowledge to know that the market always changes. Like for example, think about when cars came out 120 years ago or whenever they came out. They had an issue. They didn't have distribution. They couldn't reach the end client. So what happened was dealerships came out and said, hey, we'll do the marketing, we'll do the sales, you just do the production. So they actually solved that problem for them. Now, how the market's changing now, think about Tesla. Tesla's getting rid of their dealerships. They already have distribution. They already can reach the clients because of the internet, right? The same thing's going to happen with agencies that are just doing AdWords, that are just doing Facebook. Facebook and Google needed distribution, so we used agencies. Agencies stand for agents in the middle, right? And so as the technology gets smarter and AI and all these amazing things, and you're even seeing this like, oh, you can set up AdWords by yourself. You don't need an agency. Agencies have to be resourceful and think about, how does this affect me? How can I adapt to it? Same thing as Blockbuster.
Right.
Blockbuster.
Where can I continue to provide the most value?
Yeah. Blockbuster had the opportunity to buy Netflix. Netflix saw an opportunity saying, let's get rid of late fees. But Blockbuster actually had a board meeting to get rid of late fees. And they said, we make $800 million a year. Why would we get rid of it?
Wow.
Bad decision.
That's insane. Well, no, you make a really good comparison though there, because I think it's something that we forget. We stop looking at how we can best provide value to a client and where we can best position ourselves to be of, not to use the same word, but to be of the most value. But in doing that, a lot of that is because of the fact that we're just saying, well, I got to keep making money the way I'm making money now, because there's that risk of jumping. If I stop managing Facebook ad clients, if I stop building websites, if I stop building sales funnels and I just go to consulting, well, there goes all that revenue I've already got saved up. There's got all that revenue that's constantly coming in. So how do I transition out of that? And I think that's the fear that I see most people have. I know even myself personally, like I've just within the last probably 6 months, made that jump of getting out of a lot of the hands-on implementation into really handling the strategy. And tell you this, man, that's a scary jump. Because it's so different.
Well, you don't need to get out of it. You just need to reposition it, right? Like you're positioning, like you people in the agency space, a lot of times they say, like if someone asks what someone does, they'll be like, oh, I'm a Facebook agency. Oh, I'm a pay-per-click agency.
Right.
Well, that's describing what you do, but that doesn't describe the outcome for a particular client or the benefit, the solution, right? Like just because like you're a Facebook agency, okay, well, why would they use you? Oh, to help them spend better on Facebook ads. Why? To get more leads. Why? To grow their business. Aha. Right? So focus on the solution and figure out how can you, like, what does your clients actually need? They don't need Facebook.
Right.
But they need a solution in order to solve their problem. Facebook may be buried into that, but you need to kind of build that strategy, which is that bridge from where they're at to where they're trying to go. Mm-hmm. And the people that figure this out are the ones that won't lose out to the computers or AI or other agencies. And you also have to kind of drill down far enough in your audience. You can't go after everybody. You just have to figure out who are those types of people that you want to go after, and then understand what they need. And chase everybody else away, and then your only competition is cat videos and procrastination.
You're right. That's the other thing that most agencies struggle with, and I can be transparent here and say that's one of my struggles as well, is being very defined from a niche standpoint. Because I think, and I'll just throw it out there, kind of use myself as an example. I know a lot of times you have these grandiose ideas of where you want to go and where you want to see your brand or your agency in 3 to 5 years. You want to see yourself, whether it's like you did before you sold the agency, working with AT&T, Hitachi, these large brands. You see your agency wanting to head that direction. So your first thought is, well, how do I go there? well, it's not niching down. I have to be able to kind of work with everybody then to kind of show that I can work with any of these big brands and show these flexibility things. And I think that's the struggle, even mentally for myself, that I look at and I say, okay, I got to focus down. I really have to figure out who are the specific companies that my agency wants to focus on serving. And I know that's something that we have to work on internally.
Yeah, I mean, you have to figure out, how do you become the specialist versus the generalist? Like, if you are needing brain surgery, are you going to go to a general practitioner doctor, like who's never done surgery? That's basically what people are doing when they go to agencies that say they're a full service, if they're, under a couple hundred people, because they can't do that, right? But if you're the specialist at something, and don't look at where people are now when you compare them. You have to kind of look at, how did they get there? So use Facebook as a great example. You might be around the same age I am. I remember MySpace, right? And so,
Tom, I got Tom. He was my number one friend.
I remember when MySpace came out, and my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, I was like, who's this Tom guy who friended you? I didn't know, like, Tom friends everybody on MySpace. I was really bad. I was a jealous type on that one. I was like, what is this? But but think about, like, with Facebook, they went after Harvard students. Like, it was exclusive. Then they went after Ivy League, and then colleges, and then just started growing. So everything big starts off small. So a lot of times agencies or smaller businesses look at the big guys and go, oh, we need to go after everybody. They're going after everybody, but they didn't start there. If you really truly looked at where they started, they started and had a specialization that they could be the best in the world at, rather than, I'm just like everybody else.
Yeah. Now let me ask you this: what do you find with the agencies you kind of mentored? Is that something that you just say, okay, this is what I want to do, or do you have an internal process where you kind of walk them through and say, all right, well, let's figure out what you're suited to do, or what you follow what I'm saying?
Yeah. So if
it's just a mental decision, like I'm going to serve this niche.
Well, no, there takes some time to do it. Like, it's not an overnight switch, right? It's usually done through a process of elimination. So, like, if you're starting out, a lot of times you got to kind of try out a lot of stuff to figure out what do we need to go after. But it really starts off with your passion and your knowledge for something, right? And going, all right, because it's going to be hard. It's going to suck a lot of times, like probably 50% of the time it's going to suck. So you might as well have passion in it in order to keep you moving on. Like in that famous commencement speech that Steve Jobs did, right? It was like, you have to have passion because it's going to get hard. And I'm a true believer in that. And then it comes down to, what do I have a lot of knowledge in that is my unique property, like that no one else could emulate? And then you just start drilling down further and further, and you never can drill down far enough. You just got to kind of drill down, and you'll know when you drill down far enough when you can understand their biggest pain, when you understand what they want.
Mentorship. I say transition, but it's been since, like we said, since 2012. So what is the person, when someone's got an agency and they want to, I want to look to Jason for help. I feel kind of lost. I'm just kind of going through the motions. Like, what should they be looking at if they want to look to someone like you and say, I need help? Like, what's the mental checklist of saying, I struggle here, I struggle here, I struggle here, I need to find some outside help?
Well, you just said it, that you're not comfortable with where you're at, right? You want something bigger. You're uncomfortable. Like, if someone's comfortable with where they're at, I'm not going to help them out. They're not, like, I don't want them in my mastermind. I don't want to work with them privately. I don't want them to buy my program, because they're fine for where they're at now. They have to have some uncomfortable, feelings of going, I should be further along, and I need some type of plan or strategy in order to follow, or some help. And then when it comes to that, then it's kind of like, all right, where are you and what do you want? Now, I always look at things in like kind of systems. A lot of times agencies struggle with growing their business because their pipeline sucks. And then they're like, tell me a pipeline strategy. I'm like, well, you can't start there. You have to look at the foundation. So do we have that clarity? Going back to my origin story of how I got into the agency business, was by accident. So for a number of years, I didn't have that clarity of who I wanted to serve, where I wanted to go. who I wanted to help, why I wanted to help, right? What we were doing to get the team excited. So once I have that clarity, then I can position myself as that trusted advisor, right? I can position myself in order to talk about their biggest struggles. Oh, you struggle with, taking on clients you shouldn't be. Oh, you struggle with knowing like who's the next hires or how to structure your team or what's your agency worth, right? Which is making you feel lost and confused and the lack of not like I can go on all this and be like,
absolutely.
Oh my God, this person gets me. And then once I have that positioning, then I can look at the right offering for that.
What's interesting is this is really, I've noticed it, and I deal with this all the time with clients. This is across every industry. It's not just for agencies.
Yeah.
Because that's one of the first things that we've had to sit down. We go in with clients is we have to sit down and say, okay, let's actually look at what you're really doing. I mean, we have a client, well, I won't get into private details, but we have a client that does a specific service. And I had to look at that client and go, okay, well, what do you? Well, we sell this. Okay. And it's kind of the same thing you just said. Well, why are you selling this?
Yep.
Because it helps this. Okay. You have to really get through that why. And sometimes it really does take a lot of poking and prodding to push through the outside layers of someone's like, and I've learned this, sometimes people genuinely don't know. They just look at it as, oh, this is my business, I make money. And if you genuinely don't know and have that understanding, then there's not really a way to scale.
Yeah.
But I will highly recommend, by the way, anybody, and obviously for agencies, you're an excellent resource for this. But if you're struggling with that, like it really does help. Even I have a couple colleagues that I'm very close with. One of them is actually a family member. We have his own business. We do the same thing. And when I'm having issues and I look inside, I'm like, what's going on? To have that third party perspective, to be able to have someone else ask you specific questions, even if you know the questions to ask, sometimes it's very difficult to get through those yourself.
Yeah, I always, sometimes when I'm speaking on stage, I'll show this blurry image and I'll ask the audience, I'll say, what is it? And they're like, I don't know. And then it zooms out and it's an elephant. And so like we're all standing too close to an elephant. We can't tell what it is. And so sometimes you just got to kind of back up. But in order to really kind of figure out it's an elephant, you got to figure out what's the problem and where do I want to go? And then you can start to figure out what's the right solution. And I always tell people too, like, before you invest in anybody or anything like that, always check out their free stuff. Like you think about, like you were talking about kind of the so-called gurus and that kind of stuff.
Right.
Like they don't put out much content. There might be a reason why.
By the way, brilliant segue, even though I didn't tell you this. I was just going to tell you, I was just going to bring it up and say, one of the coolest things that I see you do a lot of as well is you give a lot of information away free. And this is something that you see a lot of people who are very well known in the marketing industry. I mean, I can go through everything from you to Gary Vee is one, depending on how everybody feels about it. But Gary Vee gives away a ton of information. He tries to, and Gary's known, he says, I give away all my best stuff for free. I mean, if someone watches you, they listen to the two podcasts you have, SwenkToday, and the other one's longer. I always forget.
Smart Agency Masterclass. Yep.
Smart Agency Masterclass. There, I'm subscribed to it. I just forget the title of it.
It's a long name.
I just see your pretty face on there every time, right there. So I just know that's the right one.
Yeah.
But like that, you give away someone can look at that and get a ton of information that you can grow your agency, build an agency, and run it right then and there. And I think the people who do this right have an understanding of, look, me giving away my best information and giving away knowledge doesn't hurt my business. It helps my business. Because we all know this, that it's not the actual information that makes the business or the person worthwhile. It's their ability to guide you through the implementation, which is what makes them worthwhile, which is why you have tons of people in your mastermind, right? It's not just that, it's not that they couldn't. I mean, there's probably some nuggets that you drop in there you don't drop elsewhere. I get it, just because of the interactions and how it works. But at the same time, it's not just that they're getting totally separate information. It's that they get access to you for the implementation of that information and accountability, because those are the two things you don't get with information.
Yeah, I always tell people too, it comes back to the clarity, like the why. Like the whole reason why we do all this and put out the information is not just to grow the business. When I sold the agency, I was completely depressed for a while. And everybody would be like, why would you be depressed? Like you had a good payday and all that kind of stuff, and you can do whatever you want. I'm like, yeah, but I don't have that significance anymore. And so I was just lucky. I kind of got pulled back into this world, like, yeah, a purpose. And so like our whole reason why we do everything is to create a resource I wish I had when I was running my business, because there was nothing out there, right? I didn't know what, an invoice was. I didn't know what I should be charging. Hell, I charged $500 for years and years. Like, why $500? Everybody starts off $500.
No,
So once I found out that why, I was like, okay, let's just put out information. And then everybody's like, why are you putting out your best information? I'm like, why should I put out my worst? And then everybody will think it's my best. Like
then everybody thinks that that's what I have.
Yeah. And like you said, a good thing too, of like, it's like, I'm putting out all these digits. Like, if I had 9 numbers in my phone number, I can't remember how many, like we just have a button now, like call mom, right?
10, 10, 10. Yeah. 10,
10,
3, yeah, 3, 3, and 4. Oh my gosh.
And so I look at all my content I'm putting out as digits, but if you don't have the digits in the right order, you're never going to reach that destination. But sometimes just a couple digits will help that person out. And here's a interesting stat. Most people don't buy from us for 3 years.
Really?
3 years. People have been like, I've been listening to your show for years and years, and now I'm finally ready. And I'm like, I love it. Like, and I don't even care if no one ever buys from me ever again. I mean, I'll lose some significance, but I still get messages and be like, hey, that helped me. Thank you very much. All that kind of stuff.
About the last couple of things, like some things that I bought, and I'm like, yeah, it is 2 or 3 years in a lot of them. Absolutely.
Yeah, you got to build trust. You got to help them out. And then finally, at the right time, the right offer may come along, and then to be like, and that's what they needed in order to get to the next level.
And I think that's a big difference. And I don't want to knock the people that necessarily like, oh, well, I sell all my little pieces of information. I sell them all because I want commitment. And that you've heard the dialogue, like, well, I have my little tripwire, and then I have this one, and then I have, and I get the purpose of a value ladder. Like, I mean, even if I look at you, I would imagine, even though you're not in the agency form, you still have an internal value ladder. Yep. You still have your course, then you've got the mastermind. And I would imagine you probably even have some people who are paying you very significant dollar amounts to do very one-on-one coaching or very one-on-one like mentoring for their agencies, right? So there's a significance to a value ladder, but it's not like, let me have you pay for every little piece of information. And I think the thing that people forget on that is, if someone pays for your information and they don't use it or it doesn't work, you've just lost a customer for life. If you're giving it away for free and they try it and it doesn't work, now you haven't lost a customer. But if you give it away for free and they try it and it works, now you've gained a customer. You've gained trust from someone who just thought, oh, it's kind of cool.
Yeah, I made a decision early on. I'd rather build the brand than just a logo. Like, I wanted people to know what we stand for, rather than just be able to replace a logo. Like, Seth Godin, I had him on our show not too long ago. And he talked about the difference of a brand versus a logo. So if Apple was going to design a sneaker, you probably know what that sneaker would be like. Probably be white, like really slick, right. Be like synced up to your Apple Watch, all that kind of stuff. But absolutely. If Hyatt Hotels was going to create a sneaker, you'd be like, I don't know. Like, you could literally take Hyatt and put it over Marriott, and you would never know the difference between that because you don't know what they stand for.
To use it, like, even the same thing, the hotel comparison. You look at a W Hotel. I happen to like W Hotels. You look at a W Hotel brand, you know what you're going to get. It's going to be trendy. It's going to be a very high end, a very elegant and kind of eclectic type feel. You're right. It is really interesting though. That's I think is the thing that people rush through. Even myself, like I look where I'm at. I've been doing this a while, and I still don't know that people would look at me and say, "Oh, I know exactly what that brand is." And that's where we're trying to do better. We're trying to be able to get the message out, and we have to learn. This is what we talked about earlier. We have to learn to niche down so that we know exactly who we're serving better.
But you don't have to appeal to everybody. That's the thing. Like, I'm sure there's people that look at you guys and your agency as the expert, as a brand. And that's important. You just got to start with 1 and then 2 and then 3. And then if it stops at 3, okay, well, what do I need to do in order to make it 4, 5 and continue? It's just like, people get impatient and inconsistent. Like, people will say,
That's
I
the
did
word.
a podcast
It's
for,
impatience.
2 months and no one listened. Well, I got something to tell you. No one listened to our podcast for probably 8 months.
Have you guys been doing? You have five on one, is it, and 3 on the other?
Yeah,
5
we have
years and 3 years.
400 episodes on the Smart Agency Masterclass, which is a 5-year-old podcast, and then the SwenkToday show. I don't even know how many episodes, because we originally started out calling it the Ask Swenk Show, and then I was like, that's too close to Gary, so I need to change.
That's
so we switched it to the SwenkToday, but I think we have close to 300 or 400 on that as well. So yeah,
interesting. Well, see, that's the point, and I think you hit it on the head. Did you hit patience? And when you look at building a brand, I mean, you're now 20 years into this brand.
Yeah,
honestly, I mean, if we stop and think about it, you're 20 years into this brand. I mean, you're still a young guy, but you're 20 years into the brand. Whereas a lot of people, I mean, I know I'm 10 years into the brand, so I have to. When I look at you, I'm like, okay, well, here's where Jason is. I have to step back and put it in perspective.
Yeah.
You really have to stop and say, okay, think about where you actually are. Give it perspective. Give it time. Tony Robbins has a famous saying. He says, people overestimate what they can do in a day, and they underestimate what they can do in a decade. And I think you hit it right on the head when you started talking about being patient, and it's what it is. Building your brand takes time, and it takes a lot of work.
Yeah, and you can't compare yourself to others, and you can't. When you compare yourself to others, you start running the risk of never starting. So you mentioned Tony Robbins. I love everything he does, mostly. I
find him that way with just about everybody.
Yeah, when he associates with certain people, I'm like, why would you do that? But I'm like, okay, sure. You pass. But so when he first started 40 years ago, he was just kind of like a reporter. He didn't know all this stuff. He just read books and was regurgitating other people, and he morphed into what we know today. And the same thing, like a lot of us would be like, well, we want to be like Tony or whoever or Gary. So we need to do all this, and then we could start doing it. I'm like, no. Like, just start doing it now, and you'll eventually get to where you want to go. And then we also got to kind of take out the vanity. A lot of us are vain. Most people are vain. I remember listening to a story Johnny Ive was talking about with Steve Jobs, and Steve was getting onto his team and just crushing his team. And Johnny was like, Steve, you ease up on our team a little bit. Like, they're doing the best. He goes, Johnny, I didn't think you were vain. And he was like, what do you mean? He's like, you care what your team thinks about you versus putting the product first. We want to deliver the best product possible for our customers. And you care what your team thinks? Shame on you. And he's like,
fair point. I get it. Point taken. Well, man, I don't want you to have too much of your time. I know you guys get really busy. So what's the best way? Well, let's do this first. Where do people follow you when they want to learn more? They want to get the free stuff. What are the best ways they can follow you?
2 websites. One is a fun website, Swenk It. Look on the hat. Well, it's probably
Swenk
backwards.
But no, we're good. I see it.
Oh, is it? Okay, it's backwards on mine. Swenk.it, and it links to both my shows, the SwenkToday show, as well as the Smart Agency Masterclass. And then the jasonswenk.com is probably the best place to go to check out all the other resources that we have. And like you said, like, we basically put out 80% of our knowledge for free. We want to be the teachers and the guides that we wish we had. And then if you ever want to engage later on, great.
Awesome. If they reach the point where they've been following you, they want to engage, what's the next step for them to engage you guys to kind of get under your tutelage, if you will?
Well, it depends on what types of people they are. If you're the type of person that is the do-it-yourselfer and can learn by going through instruction, probably the agency playbook is probably the best bet to start with the online training program, which is all kinds of micro videos. I always hate the training programs that are really long, like 40-minute videos. Like, I do them in like 5 to 10 minute chunks.
Absolutely.
Right. And we're
because how many of us actually, especially if you have your own business, how many of us have time to sit for 45 minutes and watch a video?
It's crazy, right? Like, I'm like, here's the key takeaway, go do it, then come back. And they have access to it. And we're always updating. The other one is if you want to be surrounded, I always believe that if you can surround yourself with amazing people that are going through stuff or have already been through it, you're going to get through it quicker. It's just it's a rule.
Yeah,
if you
it
show
is.
up. And so that's called the Digital Agency Elite. You can go to digitalagencyelite.com and request an invite. We only you have to do an application after that because we only let in a select number, and it's only for 100 agencies. After that, it's
Gotcha.
closed down. And we put you in small success groups of less than 15 agencies based on where you're at. So if you're an agency over 3 million, we're going to put you in that group. If you're an agency from 500 to 1.5, we'll put you in that group. And we meet twice a month over Zoom, and then twice a year at my place in Durango, Colorado. And I'm real excited about it. It's called the Digital Agency Experience, where in the morning we'll work, and then the afternoon we'll go play. Like the one in October, we're going to take people ATVing in the backcountry, and then we'll jump on steam engines, and we'll ride a steam engine back through the mountains for 2 hours, get back, then we'll have a party. We'll just do fun stuff.
Oh, nice, man.
Yeah.
No, that's fun. It's a nice twist to the live masterminds. Just to be able to spend half a day working, half a day playing.
Yeah, you want to have fun, right? And you want to connect with amazing people. And if you can play games and do activities, and and the biggest thing is getting away so you can see everything clear and see the elephant.
Oh, I totally agree. And I love that you do that, because if we actually stop and think about it, we run our agencies to be, and this is one of my favorite things I've heard Gary ever say, to be 51% altruistic. We want to give back and help others. So that 49% we want for ourselves. You want to make money, you want to have freedom, right? But with that freedom, people forget to use the freedom. Go have some fun. Like the people that know me real well know, look, I'm a sports junkie. Yeah, so I get a little too much right now that has to disappear, okay? But I love sports. So I will actually go 2-3 times a week, and I'll go play lunchtime. I'll play basketball. And I have a group of guys I play with, and we run full court, and I love it. And it's a great outlet for me. And it's like that hour, sometimes 2 hours of time that I lock up, I wouldn't trade that for anything, because it gives the balance of being able to, you come in, you work hard, and then you get to take the time to enjoy the freedom that you give yourself by working hard.
Yeah. You got to blend it. It's no work-life balance. I think you just blend like I love the mountains in Colorado. So that's why I'm blending work and pleasure.
Beautiful. I got family in Fort Collins and stuff, so I love the area, man. But awesome. Jason, I appreciate you being on here, man. It has been a lot of fun. Honor to have you on, man.
Thanks a lot for having me.
Guys, another episode of Trent Talks in the Books. We're awesome Mr. Jason Swenk on here with us. So as always, I love you guys. Until next time, have a great day. Bye. I really hope you enjoyed and got a lot of value of this video. If you did, make sure you like, subscribe, and comment below. I'm going to be answering all the comments myself. And also, come find me on your favorite social media platform and tell me what else I can help you with.